ICC has now facilitated a discussion between the BCCI and the PCB. Yes, in the latest, BCCI secretary has said that they had a discussion with the ACC chief Mohsin Naqvi and an intermediary who was used to mediate between both the boards after Pakistan literally took away our trophy. BCCI secretary has said that enough patience has been shown, and ICC has now facilitated a discussion between both sides, that is the BCCI and the PCB. Now, what exactly made it as part of that discussion and how PCB has reacted, we are trying to get to the bottom of that. But BCCI secretary calling for patience.
So there were a series of meetings in Dubai in the ICC, and the final day, that was yesterday, there was two meetings. One is the informal board meeting, and followed by the formal board meeting. In both these meetings, the chairperson of Pakistan Cricket Board, Mr. Mohsin Naqvi, was present. So do I. I represented BCCI, and during the formal meeting, there was no such discussion on this issue because it was not in the agenda. However, at our request, the ICC has facilitated a meeting between myself and Mr. Naqvi on the sidelines of the board meeting. We had a cordial discussion on the issue. Both sides had understood that this has to be sorted out. Both sides are positive to sort it out at the earliest possible time.
Heading across to Nikhil Nas to get us further details on what exactly the discussion was about between the BCCI and PCB this time around, Nikhil, and when are we going to get our trophy?
Well, Suresha, that is, of course, $1 million question. I'd have to say that even though this is a developing story and what you are now telling your viewers is, of course, the latest updates, but overall, if you take a look at the macro picture, then I think status quo remains. Trophy was not in India's hands, and the PCB head Mohsin Naqvi was reluctant to give the trophy. That was the stance, or that was the position for both the boards about a month and a half ago, and that remains exactly the same position we find ourselves now. So in a month and a half, you really haven't moved when it comes to this particular stalemate that is there between PCB as well as the BCCI. What has really changed now, Suresha, is the tone and tenor of the BCCI. I remember the Asian Cricket Council meeting that happened a few weeks ago. At that time, we heard from the BCCI saying that, listen, they're not going to take this lightly. They're going to take this issue up. We had two Indian representatives in the meeting, and they said that, listen, we've asked Naqvi to apologize. At that time, it did seem like the BCCI was taking a very aggressive stance and not ready to take a step back. What we're hearing now is that you've reached a situation where you realize that, this sort of, hard stance is not going to work from either sides. And probably that's why they've asked the ICC now to play the mediator. And remember, this is still not an ICC matter. This is not a matter of the International Cricket Committee. This is a matter of the Asian Cricket Council. And this was brought up in the Asian Cricket Council meeting. Nothing really came about. So as you heard from the secretary there, he's saying that we've actually requested the ICC to have an informal meeting. What may come out of that informal meeting, we don't know. But at least the tone and tenor has changed, where they said, listen, we both agree that a resolution will have to be found. So I think now you've gone in from a situation where you're saying, we're not going to talk to each other. We are not going to move. We've dug our heels in and we are going to get the trophy. And PCB saying we're not going to give the trophy, to at least a common platform now where both have said that, listen, we'll talk about it and try and find a solution where the trophy then can be handed over to the rightful owners, that is the Indian cricket team.
So Nikhil, really to get further to what you've said, is the PCB trying to lay certain conditions in order to give our trophy that belongs rightfully to us? And secondly, the BCCI's change of tone, is it rather demoralizing for Indians when they say that it is important for us to be patient?
Well, yeah, it is interesting. I mean, if you ask, firstly, to answer your second part of the question, if you ask Indian fans, I think they wouldn't really care what is the stance of the BCCI. A fan really is bothered about the trophy coming back. Dare I even say that I'm looking at a lot of reactions on social media and otherwise, I think majority of the Indian fans are saying we don't even need the trophy. We won it. We won the tournament. That's what you went there for. This is just a piece of silverware. Yes, it should be in India. Yes, it should be in the hands of the Indian cricket captain. But at the moment, that's not something that a lot of fans are then, losing sleep over. Yes, there are a certain section of fans and Indians in general that would want the trophy. Whether the change of, stance by the BCCI is bothering them or not, I don't think so. The eventual goal, if it's achieved, then I think all will be forgotten when the trophy then comes back here. So that's the first thing. Now to the PCB laying conditions, as you're saying, are they laying conditions? We haven't heard from the Pakistan Cricket Board, but we know the kind of conditions that they've been putting forward in the past, where they've said that, listen, we are happy to give the trophy, but it'll have to come from the Asian Cricket Council chief, who also happens to be the chief of the Pakistan Cricket Board. So you do it, we'll organize the ceremony, you send your captain, but we are going to give that trophy. I think what has really happened in this meeting is the Indian side probably has made it clear that this sort of a condition may not be possible, where we send, an Indian player and Mohsin Naqvi ends up giving the trophy. I don't think that is agreed upon by the board. I think they'll have to find a common ground. It cannot be either or. You're not going to get 100% of what the PCB is asking for. And dare I say, not even going to get 100% of the BCCI has been asking for. As I said, the ICC really doesn't have a role to play here. It can't even go to a vote, because this is a matter of the Asian Cricket Council, of which Mohsin Naqvi is then the president. So I think there will have to be a common ground. I mean, if I was to give you a educated guess, it probably might be a scenario where an Indian player doesn't go, maybe a BCCI official goes, and then the trophy is handed over by Mohsin Naqvi. That is something, as I said, I'm just hazarding a guess at the moment. That could be the middle ground. But what you're getting to hear from both sides is that you will have to find a middle ground. It's not going to be a win-win for either sides at the moment.